Okay, well, welcome, Harry. It's great to have the chance to talk to you. Harry Ness is something of a polyglot already, speaks a number of languages, and is focusing at the moment at university in Cambridge on German and Russian, and is in his third year. And we're going to focus, because this is his year abroad, on his experiences during this year. So, first of all, what's going on? Where are you at the moment? Where have you been? I know you've just come back to the UK, but where have you been?
Yeah, so I actually live in southwest Germany in a place called Trier, which is more or less 20 minutes from the border of Luxembourg, also fairly close to France. And I'm doing my year abroad there. I'm teaching English at a local gymnasium, so roughly 10 to 18-year-olds.
And you're in your third year of German study at university, but you studied German for your school leaving exams for the A levels as well, I presume.
Yeah, I did German and I did Spanish. Those were my two languages at A levels.
So you've had further tuition during the first 2 years at university, or is it just up to you to improve on your own with a focus on literature?
Yeah, well, it's not quite like Oxford. They do a lot more literature than we do, but you do have to do two literature papers. So in your first year, you will do two language papers for each language, and then one literature paper for each language. So out of the two language papers, one of them is a translation into English. So you'll be given a passage of literature. So again, it's a little bit of a focus on literature. So you'll be translating something from German to English, and the same with your second language into English. And then with your third paper, which is a pure language paper, you'll be doing something like having a reading comprehension test, and then you'll be asked to write an essay on something, some current topic. And as far as tuition goes, you sort of have maybe 3 or 4 hours of classes a week. So it's mainly a do it yourself kind of approach with a tiny bit of guidance. So, for example, we'll be told from the vocabulary book, try and look at these units this week, and then we might be asked to write one or two short 300-word essays in German. But as far as the actual building on the language is concerned, you are mainly left to yourself.
So for speaking practice, really, you're left to yourself.
Yeah, we have 1 hour a week with, and it's not on your own either. So we have 1 hour a week with one other person. So you have one native and then two students for one
Yeah.
hour a week.
And have you found the need to write in the language helpful? Because I've been preparing recently for a German exam, and I felt that my writing was weak, and I found the practice of having to translate into German, but also freehand comprehension writing in German, which I had corrected, quite a useful exercise.
I do really like that they continue to make us do that at university. It's something that I really value. And I definitely don't do it enough in the languages that I've studied outside of an academic environment, but I certainly think it's a good exercise. And in the second year of university, with the languages that you've done post A level, you have to translate a piece of English literature into German in one of the exams. And I found that to be an exceptional exercise, really, especially for boosting vocabulary and really working on some tough grammatical structures, because you don't quite realize how hard, what the kind of level you have to reach to be able to translate something that's written in, well, some English literature into German, because yeah, the sentences are often quite difficult. But I really do think it's a good skill to practice.
And so, what sort of level would you think that your German was at by the time you arrived in Trier at the beginning of this academic year? And how has it developed in the first term, the first 3 months or so that you've been over there in the country?
I think I had a C1, and I mean I've never taken one of the official exams,
So that's a
only A
lower
level, and
advanced level on the European
yeah,
scale.
yeah. We were told by the university that we were roughly at C1 level. It's not like I've ever taken one of their exams, but I've taken the 2 years at university, the German exams, and we were told that was the equivalent of a C1. And since I've been in Trier, I think the main things I've noticed is when I'm speaking, it all seems a bit more natural, because the focus in Cambridge is and in university in general is definitely not on speaking. The speaking exams made up something like 5 or 6% of our marks for the whole of the first 2 years. So the focus really wasn't there at all, which is something that I think is wrong with the system. But since I've been there, it just seems a bit more natural, flows a bit more, and those filler words are there. I don't know, that's something that I see as really key. The filler words that just make you sound a bit more like a native speaker. Before I would put them in because I knew that you had to put them in to sound natural. Now they just sort of crop up, and just the way I express myself as well, it just sounds a bit more intelligent, because I think it's one thing learning a new language takes a lot of skill, but when you try and then sound intelligent in a foreign language, it's quite a hard thing to do. So that's something that I think has come, well, is coming gradually. But I've only been there for 3 months, so it's not been significant progress yet, I would say.
And you're teaching at the school as well, so that would suggest to me you're having to use English quite a lot of the time.
Mm.
And I suppose people sometimes say they end up hanging out with other foreigners or other English people. So there were two things there really. How's it working with the work that you have to do, and in your social life outside and the hall of residence or wherever you're living?
Yeah. So in terms of in school, I have 12 hours a week of teaching. And in the classrooms, their system is simply there is no German in the classrooms. It's 100% in English. So 12 hours a week, I am speaking in English. And the thing I actually find is it's brilliant for my vocabulary in German sometimes, because you'll get the year 7 kids who understand a lot of things but don't quite have the vocabulary to express what they want. So they'll pull me over and say, "Oh, how do you say this word in English?" Or "How do you say this word?" And then the most bizarre words, that we were doing passages about Christmas, and there'll be things like candy cane and things like that. And I didn't know some of the words, and I'd look them up for them, and then I learn a new word at the same time. So it's often quite good. But obviously, for speaking, it means I'm speaking English for 12 hours a week. And then in the teachers' room, staff room, I only speak in German with the teachers, so that's very good. And I actually live with some Germans, but also one person from Scotland. So it's kind of hard to try and make him speak German with me when it's just us two. So I do have that English influence in my apartment as well. But whenever we go out as a group, it's all in German, and we have an international friendship group. So we've got a couple of people from Spain, 2 girls from Russia as well. So when we're all in one big group, we do all speak German together because it is our strongest mutual language. But yeah.
So it doesn't sound like it that using the language is a problem for you then in your daily life.
No, I'm very happy with the amount of German I'm speaking, but we did have an induction course for learning how to teach English, which was with other people from England, and they do all live sort of around me. And I can remember the first few weeks I was in Germany, didn't have too many other friends in the place, so I was feeling as if I wanted to see them, because it was the whole comfort thing of having English there, and it's so easy, and they're also really nice people. So, but over the past few months, I've been trying to have as many German weekends as possible with my flatmates and friends in Trier.
So it's really a question of making the right choices in your social life.
100%. Yeah, it's really quite difficult as well, because you feel so comfortable with having the exact same native language, and it's just so easy to communicate exactly what you want to say with people, and use sarcasm and not offend anyone and things like that by saying the wrong thing accidentally. So it is quite hard sometimes to get yourself away from English people when you're in this environment and when you're alone. I stayed with a family for the first 2 weeks in Trier, and it can be difficult to not feel lonely when you're thrown into a new country at first, and therefore go to the English people. But I've managed now to sort of develop a habit of only maybe seeing them once every 4 or 6 weeks or something like that. So
Yeah, and it's quite tiring at first, isn't it, as well, if you've got to use a foreign
mhm.
language, in addition to all the other new things you've got to cope with, new transport system, different ways of doing things culturally and so on.
Yeah,
Yeah. So no, it sounds like it's going
registry.
really well.
Yeah.
And what about, your friends and colleagues from the course back home? Are they presumably gone to some of them? Have they all come to Trier, gone to different towns? Are they having similar experiences?
Most of my friends are actually in Russia, because my course is German and Russian, and yeah, most of my friends are either in. I have a couple of friends who do French who are all in France, and I don't actually know too many people in Germany. One in Austria who was having a similar thing of he's got a lot of American friends there, and he's yet to push away from spending too much time with them because of the whole lonely thing and it's quite a stressful situation. But my friends in Russia are doing a lot better because there's not as many people go to Russia for their year abroad, and it's such a big country that they're not as close together. Whereas in places like Austria, he knows all of the people from my university who are in Austria because most of them have gone to Vienna. Whereas in Russia, I've got friends in Yekaterinburg, and then I've got friends in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Vladivostok, and all over the place, really. And they can't exactly just pop to see each other on a 1 hour train or something. So they're doing really well in terms of focusing on Russian as much as possible.
It can probably help if you have, with the German people, common interests as well. If you're interested in the
Yeah.
same in sport, for example, or certain
Hmm.
cultural activities, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or hiking, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Football's been a huge thing. There's so many local teams around where I live, and I'm very into football, and most of my flatmates, and then we're all quite into sports and minority sports as well. So we like to go and play pool and things like that, and go bowling and all sorts. So it's good when you find the right group of people.
So I suppose one tip would be, find an interest that you can share where the language is almost incidental.
Yeah.
Are there any other tips you'd want to leave people with if they're about to start a year abroad at university, or thinking of doing a university course where they would be expected to do that, or indeed just about to come and work and live in a foreign country and want to get better at the language?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you know that feeling lonely is something that will probably hit you at some point because it's all new. I think you need to, I know it sounds maybe bad, but try and avoid making too many English friends because obviously it becomes a habit. And if you've seen them for 2 or 3 weeks, then you can't just turn around and say, oh, I don't want to be friends with you because you speak English to me. So you need to maybe try and push through that. There's a lot of good ways of finding people. On Facebook, if you just Google language group and then the city name, there's often something in any big city. I mean, Trier's not huge, but I typed in language group Trier, and there's a group of people who meet, I think, weekly currently to talk in various different languages and things. And it's a great way of meeting German people who are interested in foreign languages. And most people who do foreign languages at university are bound to be interested in languages as well. So that's a great one. Sports groups, playing for a football team or a tennis team or whatever it may be, you'll get in and you'll learn how to talk about your forehand or whatever in the foreign language. And it's a really great way to make friends. So just try and do the things you do at home in the foreign country. It's a really great way. And another thing I would say in terms of improving the language is just because you're there doesn't mean you're going to get better. So take some time to still study. I take an hour every day at the moment when I'm in Germany to actually study German, even though I'm in Germany and I could just walk out the door, because you'll get very good at ordering this, or you'll get very good at saying, oh, could I have another one of that? But that doesn't mean you're getting better. That just means you're getting really comfortable at basic things that are actually just like an A2 on the scale in terms of skill level. You need to take some time to maybe read a novel or something and write down words, or study the grammar again, or anything really. So that would be a
Great.
top tip.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. And all that falls to me is to wish you the best of luck with the next 2 terms and the rest of your time in Trier.
Yeah,
Thanks a
thank you very
lot.
much.
Cheers. Auf Wiedersehen.